This is a WKYT podcast.
Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, we'll get a snapshot of the hot real estate market in the Lexington area and how the spring of the year is when a lot of folks are likely to be on the move. The Lexington Bluegrass Association of Realtors joining us shortly. But first, the coronavirus has taken a sudden and unexpected toll on the world economy. Stocks have plunged, come back and plunged again in many cases in the uncertainty of it all, and those have been checking their 401ks and other investment accounts have been stunned by what they see. So what do you do? Is there a way to pull a parachute and stop losses, or do you hang on for the duration and see where this all goes? Joining us this morning is Josh Smith with Strategic Wealth Designers. He's here with some advice for us. Thanks for coming in, Josh. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
So the economy was humming right along. You know, we had a very encouraging job report that came out, and then this worldwide concern about coronavirus. What are you telling your clients who have to be ringing the phone off the wall?
Well, I think a lot of people are shocked to the idea that the market moves in two directions, not just one. I think for a long time we've gotten a little complacent with the idea that the stock market only goes in one direction. So what I'm telling my clients right now, if what's going on right now makes your stomach churn a little bit, again with the coronavirus, it might be what we call what we call black swan event, just something unexpected that you just can't predict. If it's making your stomach churn right now, maybe it's a time to re-look at your allocations inside of your portfolio, meet with a professional, and really look and make sure you have the proper asset allocations. Again, if the market goes down a lot in one day and you get really uncomfortable or you don't like seeing those losses, you may want to shift some of those assets to more safer assets or building strong safety nets.
So there is no simple answer to should you hang on, or should you try to drop out and go into some other investment, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to depend on where you are. Especially if we're talking about retirement accounts, in your retirement journey, the number one mistake we see what people make when they're near or actually in retirement is just they're taking on entirely too much risk. And I get it, it's difficult to dial down that risk when you see, you're afraid of missing out. But if you're in that last few years, the stage of your life, before you're going to start needing income, I can tell you firsthand, a big gain is probably not going to help you as much as a big loss will absolutely be devastating to you. Now, with that being said, if you're another 10, 15, 20 years away, maybe you're just in your 30s or 40s, I would just stay the course with what's going on right now. There's going to be a few bumps along the way, but again, it just kind of really depends on where you are at in life.
I know this is a great unknown with this coronavirus, but how long potentially could we be in this very volatile situation?
Well, with viruses, and again, I'm not a doctor,
right.
That's there, we do expect some disruptions in the supply chain. So what I'm hearing is that, when you go, we're very fortunate here in our country when we go to the grocery store, we see full shelves of things. I think there might be some minor inconveniences as we look at in the future. I just heard recently that Apple's running out of parts to fix iPhone. So if you're okay with your iPhone being broken for an extra day or two, I think we're going to weather this storm, pretty well. But there are going to be some bumps along the way.
Will the emergency interest rate cut from the feds help the situation? It seemed to help the markets for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think. It can help in the short term, but really long term, interest rates is just one part of the equation. Long term, we do have a healthy economy here in this country. And again, as it relates to your viewers and what it is they should do with their investments, I think a lot's going to just depend on where they are, along that journey. We foresee 2020, it's an election year. We already expected a bumpy ride just with the volatility that's there. So if this bumpiness right now is kind of causing some concern, maybe that's a clue that maybe things need to be reevaluated for you.
We've always heard markets hate uncertainty.
Yeah.
And we already had, as you said, the presidential election playing out. Now this situation is just about the ultimate in uncertainty.
Yeah. And as it relates to the presidential contest, if the economy were to falter, I think that's going to bring even more uncertainty to the markets because typically incumbents do well in a good economy. So I think that plays well for our current president. However, if the economy were to falter, that's going to create even more uncertainty and even more volatility as time goes on.
Is this a good time to buy anything right now, and particularly with these low interest rates?
Yeah, so with the low interest rates, so if you're looking maybe to upgrade your home or that was already in your plan, I would definitely say, hey, go ahead and explore those options if you have the means to do so. But I wouldn't make a big decision like that just because interest rates drop, right now. But yeah, it certainly can be a good time. Maybe to refinance some of your debt to a lower interest rate that's already there, or you've been looking to upgrade your home or maybe get that dream house and you have the means to do so, yeah, this may be an excellent opportunity to do that. Take advantage of
Just to try to be clear on people with investments, and particularly if they are investing for retirement.
Yeah.
A different situation for a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Yes.
Could you just, what approach would you take in either case?
Yeah, so I would always, we always take the approach of there's a simple rule out there you can follow. It's called the rule of 100. So the rule of 100 basically states you take your age, and that is ideally how much you should have in a safe position. That means, my definition of safe is no risk, loss of principal. So obviously if you're age 60, that would be 60% I'd want in a safe place. So take a look at your portfolio. If you're not set up that 60% of your portfolio is going to be protected in a downturn, that's probably a clue that you need to make some changes. Now, just the opposite, if I'm a 30-year-old, maybe a small percentage, 30% or so would be, a good amount to have in a safe position, but you can take more risk, leave more risk on the table, because if you're 30 years old, you got a little bit more time before you're going to need these assets to produce an income for you than say a 60-year-old. All
right. Well, this is an evolving situation. We'll stay on top of it. We really appreciate your advice today.
All right. Thank you.
Stay with us now on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll talk to LBar, the Lexington Bluegrass area realtors, in just a bit about what is still a very hot housing market. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers from WKYT. Now that we're into March, a lot of people are starting to house hunt, and the word that we keep hearing in central Kentucky is that it is tough right now for buyers because homes don't last. If you're selling, how do you get your property ready inside and out? And if you're buying, or at least looking, is there a way to take advantage of these suddenly lower interest rates that have come along during this coronavirus ordeal? Joining us this morning from the Lexington Bluegrass Association of Realtors are Justin Landon, he's the CEO, and LBar's president this year, Greg Buchanan. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Bill.
Is it true that these sunny and warmer days do bring the house hunters out?
Yeah, I would say that's probably some truth to it. The spring market usually kicks in gear right around the 1st of March. So definitely, I think people are getting out a little bit more with the warmer weather, and they like to go look at houses.
It's interesting, Justin. These we've been talking about. These are the best of times, but challenging times in real estate for the reasons of inventory. We hear that the market is incredibly hot, especially in some price ranges. You put a house on the market, it doesn't last but maybe a few hours, right?
Yeah, we're at a point now where inventory levels are just at such a low level that homes are going on the market, and in some price points, under $250,000, they're going to sell. In some cases, in a matter of hours. In some cases, in a matter of days. But almost never longer than 30 days. As you get to the higher price points, that changes a little bit. But only 15% of all listings in our market are taking longer than 4 months to sell. So everything's moving very quickly.
So that's a challenge, right, for realtors? I mean, somebody comes looking to buy a home, and you're having to tell them what?
Look towards paying possibly full price. Make your offers stand out, be a little different. Even offer some of the seller concessions. So yeah, you're going to get multiple offer situations, so you have to be prepared for that.
Well, and come prepared, right? Come prepared with your pre-qualification letter, because you're not going to have time to wait around to make an offer. Correct. You've got to be ready the second you see it to make that offer.
Others are standing in line.
That's right.
Yeah. Give us some numbers. Where is the sweet spot right now on home values in central Kentucky?
Yeah, our median price point across our entire market is just under $200,000. That's going to include Fayette County, and 26 counties all around us, as far south as London, east of Moorhead. So a pretty good region. Here in Fayette County, you're looking at closer to $215,000 median price, and if you're talking like average, it gets up pretty high. Greg and I were just talking before this that the average price of new home construction in Fayette County is now well over $400,000, which is pretty staggering, and $330,000 for new home construction across that 26 county region. So we're just seeing some pretty significant price increases.
What is driving that?
What is driving it mostly is that you have really high demand and not enough supply. It's almost basic economics. We have to start talking about a regional growth pattern. If Fayette County is not willing to grow, how do we include others around us to help grow our numbers? Because right now, we simply just do not have the land for new construction to build on. And like Justin said, the average price of new construction is $456,000. Back in 2008, I remember new construction for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, 1,300 square feet, was going to be about $115,000. So we have really drove up the prices because of our lack of inventory.
So you were telling us that in Lexington, Fayette County, obviously the huge employer in central Kentucky, that only about half of the people who work here live here.
Right. We have 51% of our workforce in Fayette County does not live in Fayette County. And that's an issue. I mean, they're burning up our roads, burning up our emergencies. They're burning up some funds that we're not getting the benefit from because they don't live here and they can't afford to live here.
What can be done to try to address this? You've been on several times here since you came to town a few years ago, and I don't see a lot of progress in this issue. Do you?
Look, and I've been here 2 years now, and I'll tell you, this is a wonderful place to live, right? I love it here, and so do a lot of other people. And we've talked a lot about, do we have a supply problem? And we do, but in many ways, we also have a really significant demand problem, which is people want to be here. And so what's the solution? Well, time will cure some of it, right? We know that interest rates are super low right now, so buyers are really eager to be in the marketplace. If rates creep back up sometime over the next 2 years, we know some of that demand will slow, and that's probably not a bad thing in the long term. But if we don't address the supply side of the equation, and I think Greg hit the nail on the head, the solution is not going to be any one of our counties solving the problem on their own. We've already seen Scott County start to really slow down because they're running out of wastewater capacity given their current levels. And Madison County's just going like gangbusters, but for how much longer? So we've really got to talk about a regional solution. What that looks like, gosh, if we had all the answers, we wouldn't be in real estate, we'd be in fortune telling.
But it seems that more cooperation is a rather obvious answer to some of it. I mean, we don't do revenue sharing very well in Kentucky. People are, shy from it, and that is that maybe one county helps take care of another jurisdiction's problems. That's something that, again, we haven't broached that very often.
No, I think Fayette County is probably a fairly good example of a merged government, and I think that's been a benefit to the community to have the city and the county merged together. But I think we need to have a broader regional conversation. Northern Kentucky actually has a very strong coalition in terms of their transportation infrastructure, and they work together quite a bit up there. Maybe that's a model for us, but there's no question to me that if Fayette County and the adjacent counties don't have a joint solution to both housing, transportation, there's a number of issues there, but we've got to really come together. And of course, 120 counties in the state of Kentucky, we've got some challenges there. And
yet, it is these unique characteristics that make people want to be here. All of the green space, the horse farms, the historic sites, and so forth. So it is quite a challenge when you say to people, we want to take some of that for homes, right?
Yeah, I think we would probably. Nobody wants to take away horse farms. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us Lexington. And so nobody's looking to develop a horse farm. That's not even in the cards. But I do think we need to look at certain probably areas of Fayette County that don't fit the description of a horse farm, and look at maybe including that in the zone to have new construction. The urban infill is just it's going to help, but it's still a Band-Aid to a much larger problem. And with urban infill, if you have a developer that goes down and takes out a house and demolishes it and rebuilds something else, you have two issues, I think. One, if the developer wants to go 3 stories high, planning and zoning is going to say no. Two, when you displace that person that was renting there for $400 or $500 a month, where do those people go? And I don't know if anybody has the answer to that.
Gentrification, which is another a major issue, right? We're seeing the people who have difficulty remaining in the neighborhoods where they've been for their lives.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, really healthy community. You live where you work where your kids go to school. And when you start to displace people out of those traditional environments, you know, they have to get a car. Maybe they didn't need one before. Maybe they have to go 2 counties out now to find a property they can afford. And these are just public challenges that we've got to address and begin to try to put solutions in place. And it's not that there's not people out there trying. I mean, gosh knows we're all trying. But I do think a broader conversation is in the offing, because right now we have fewer properties listed for sale in Central Kentucky than we in the history of Central Kentucky.
Wow.
And given the strong nature of the economy right now in the real estate market, like, that's kind of a shocking number.
And we're not trying to like alarm anyone. I mean, we still have a healthy market, but we're just trying to put forth maybe some warning signs and say, hey, look, let's tap the brakes. Let's address some issues that we see coming, because right now we're at a 30%, since 2015, housing is up 30%. And that's a pretty aggressive number for just 5 years of inflation. So.
And you both pointed to other areas that have seen these kinds of challenges, and when they are not addressed, it compounds on itself.
Yeah, I
right?
think Fayette County is, when it coughs, I think other counties maybe catch the cold, and I think you're seeing that in Georgetown. Look, bottom line is wage growth has not increased 30%. So we're like I said, we're just putting out some warning signs to say, hey, we may have an issue. Let's try to address it regionally. Let's maybe look at some of these other counties and say, hey, how can we help you? Mm-hmm. You know, what can we do?
Is there a sector of the market that is very strong right now, where folks can, if they have the money, they can go buy what they want?
Probably not. I mean, anything under 200,000 is going to fly, and I would say anything probably above the 450 to 500,000, you will probably have some time to make your decisions. But anything from that 200 to 300 is going to be pretty aggressive.
And 50% of all properties listed in the MLS right now, our multiple listing service, are selling in less than 30 days. So.
We hear people nationwide are staying in their homes longer. Is that a factor in this as well? People are simply not moving on?
I think a lot of that's anecdotal. I mean, it's going to be unique in every circumstance. I do think, though, that with interest rates where they are, right, people are looking at it and saying, well, gosh, I can just refi my existing house, lower my monthly payment significantly. And of course, if I bought my house 4 or 5 years ago, I might get rid of PMI, mortgage insurance in the process, lower my monthly by several $100 a month. I don't need to move, right? And in a case where there may not be a ton of inventory out there, just stay in place. I think we're seeing some of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, despite these challenges, there are people who plan to be on the move in this year ahead, and we're going to talk about some things that you should do with your home, or you should do if you're a buyer to get ready to purchase a home, when we come back with the folks from LBar on Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We're continuing our discussion with the folks from the Lexington Bluegrass Association of Realtors. Today, Justin Landon is the CEO of that, and LBar's president this year is Greg Buchanan. And we appreciate both these gentlemen coming in today. All right, we worried a little bit. We're a little bit gloom and doom and talking about the housing market, which is actually so strong right now. But you had some sobering information we wanted to get out. Now let's talk about these low interest rates and the opportunities that are out there right now. The Fed lowered the interest basis point half a point again this week. We expect that will translate into lower interest rates for home buyers, right?
Absolutely. I think obviously now is the time to put your house on the market and sell, especially with the fact you have low interest rates to purchase your next home. So we definitely need more sellers in the marketplace. The demand is very high. You'll have enough buyers. We just need more listings, more sellers.
Is the fact that you would have a for sale sign out such a rare thing right now? I mean, it'll get more attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think, typically what we've seen in history is that December and January are kind of slow months for sales. And yet both in December and January, this last January of 19 and January of 2020, we're up 20% in closed volume, which means, gosh, people are buying, and those that are selling have a a wealth of opportunity. We're seeing multiple offer situations. So, the message to Central Kentucky here is if you're at all interested in selling, call a realtor and get that thing on the market. Now's the time.
Because it will zip right along.
That's right.
Let's talk about people dealing with realtors. Obviously, they can throw up, for sale by owner and try to do things themselves. But what is it that realtors offer to people, in 2020 that may be different from some years ago in terms of guiding them through a purchase or sale?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the getting a buyer and writing a contract. There's so much more to it. It's navigating through inspections. It's negotiation of inspections. If you have an appraisal issue, we have to tackle that. Coordinating with contractors. So there's a lot to it than just throwing up a for sale sign and calling it a day. The realtor does have more knowledge of the market. They'll be able to negotiate better deals for you. We've seen deals in the past with for sale by owners where they've gone sideways really, really quick because the contracts were not wrote properly, or they probably left maybe $15,000 to $20,000 on the table in that particular example. So definitely, we do more than just put a sign on the yard. It's a lot to it.
In an interesting time when I talk about a multiple offer situation, a lot of people think, well, gosh, it's just fine. If it's that hot, I'll just stick a sign in the yard and I'll get an offer. Well, sure, you're probably going to get several. And trying to understand the difference in the kinds of offers you're going to receive, how it's financed, what the other terms other than price.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need a professional to guide you through that. And I think a realtor is worth every penny that you pay them, because they're going to make sure you're protected.
What's the strongest position you can be in if you're a purchaser and there's a house you want to make an offer on? What, you make a full price offer and you have your money ready to go?
I think the strongest position for a buyer right now is to go ahead and go through the pre-approval process ahead of time. And there are actually some lenders that will go ahead and get you pre-approved, when they look at all your financial documents, your tax returns. They'll look at all that and give you the green light. And therefore, you're probably maybe only 14 days away from closing at that point. You're almost bringing it into almost like a cash offer type situation. So you've got to think outside the box, offer some things that nobody else is offering, but I would say close to full price would be your first go at it.
Again, great reason to have a realtor, because they're going to advise you on whether that price is the price and whether there is opportunity to offer below it. But we're seeing 98% of homes listed are selling for full price.
Can it be tough to get comps in a market where the sales are like they are right now?
Yeah, you definitely have to adjust for market conditions. I mean, sales from a year ago may not look at what is happening in today's marketplace, and so we do have to be aware of that. And back to like what Justin said, there are some instances where you have to make a differential between a conventional loan or an FHA loan. If you can get I may take a conventional loan because I know it's going to be an easier process. If I'm a seller or I'm representing the seller, I may take that loan over an FHA loan because of different appraisal guidelines.
When you meet with a buyer, what is it you need to know from them? I mean, you may immediately know of a house that you just love because it has an outdoor space that is to die for, and you want them to see that, but maybe that's low on their priorities. They're interested in the kitchen. I mean, how do you meet them where they want to have their home be?
Right. I think you need to have the buyers have a conversation with them and say, hey, what are your top 3 priorities? What are some of your top 3, top 4? And then educate them that, hey, you may not be able to find all 3 or 4. You may have to settle for, top priority number 1 or 2. So I think it's just education and having that communication with them that you may have to settle, a little bit. And there's probably not going to find the perfect dream home.
And if somebody is hoping to put their property on the market this spring, as you, Landon, have encouraged them to do right now, let's talk, Justin, let's talk just a little bit about that. What should people do to get their house ready for market?
Greg's the expert on marketing properties, so I'll defer to him on that one.
I think obviously your first impression is going to be online, right? And so I always tell sellers that your first showing occurs virtually, it occurs online. So make sure that your house is in tip-top condition for pictures and any virtual tours, things like that, in order to make sure staging will definitely help. But just making sure that your house is picked up and cleaned, declutter, is kind of the best thing you could probably do. Because like I said, your first impression is going to be online, so making sure that everything is perfect when it first hits the MLS is the best thing.
Justin, this one's for you, because I know you hear the realtors talk about their issues and their challenges. People have more access than ever to information online. They can look at these sites that place a value on a home, and that may not be in line with the asking price or the perceived value that the homeowner has. How do you resolve that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these AVMs, right, is what we call them, and they give you a snapshot based on an algorithm of what the house might be worth, right? And so, it's particularly in our market right now, like in the downtown area where there's a lot of renovation going on, those estimates can be off by tens. I've even seen ones that are maybe $100,000 off because of the work that's been done on the home subsequent to its being listed. And so I think that is one of probably the biggest challenges that realtors have today is explaining what's happening there. But it's all data driven, and what we see is consumers today want data, and if you give them data, they will digest it. And so one of the things that LBar really does its best to try to provide to our realtor membership is to understand what's going on with our data. So as you hear me spit out numbers, we spit out those numbers every day to our realtors to empower them to be able to frame those conversations. I see those AVMs as a great opportunity for potential clients and realtors to have a conversation about what something's really worth. And if you're relying on an AVM and not a broker price opinion from a realtor, you really don't know what's happening in the market.
Flying blind a little bit.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having us.
Interesting spring for home sales. We want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll see you bright and early this week on WKYT this morning. We start at 4:30, so we're up when you're up. You make it a good week ahead.